This book is making me so depressed, but like in a positive way. It's just done so well that you really start to feel like sort of hopeless about life. I need to open this video with an apology statement about my makeup, because I don't know what the fuck happened there. My nose, it looked normal in the mirror, I swear, otherwise I never would have turned on the camera. I don't know what happened. I'm really sorry that you have to look at that the whole video. It's probably very distracting, but I hope you can still enjoy it. Hi and welcome to another video. My name is Catherin and I make videos on here on books, writing and my life in Italy. And I thought it was time for another book related video because it's been a hot minute. I actually let you guys vote on Instagram which video you wanted to see the most, and an overwhelming majority of you voted for As a Romance Hater, these are the romance books I actually liked. And I was fully planning on making that video, but as I started making the list of romance books I wanted to talk about, I realized there was like 3 of them. There were like 3 romance books I could genuinely say I really loved, so I was like, damn, that's not gonna fill up a video, and it kind of like defeats the whole point of the video. So now I'm actually in the process of speed reading a few romance books that had been on my list for a while, that had been recommended to me and I think I might really love, so that I have a little bit more books to talk about in the video. So that one will come later, I promise. So I thought today we would just do a simple book haul because I have acquired a lot of books in the past month or so, mostly because I went to the Netherlands and I always stock up on books in indie bookstores there, because in Italy it's quite hard to find English books in indie bookstores. Like, they have some English books in Milano obviously, but they are usually like the classics or recent popular releases, but there's not really like obscure underground books and I could just browse and discover new favorites. Like, that's not really the case here. So I always either have to order on Amazon, which I try to avoid as much as possible, or I just wait until I go to the Netherlands or another country that has more access to English books. So I went a little bit on a bender in the Netherlands, but that's fine because I have been reading a lot of those books already and I'm actually really enjoying them, so no regrets there. So I thought it would be fun to just go through all the books I got and talk a little bit about them. The first book is a book that I had actually seen around on Instagram a lot already, because this cover just catches your eye. So every time someone posted about this, I just noticed it, but I actually never took the effort to look up what it was about. And then I saw it in the bookstore and I was like, let me read what this book is about. It's called On the Calculation of Volume, and this is the first book in a series. It's written by Solvej, if that's how you say it. I think it's a Danish name, but I'm not sure. And it's translated by Barbara Haveland, and this is a literary fiction time travel series. And I was so intrigued by that. Like, there's not a lot of literary fiction series, I feel like. It's usually just standalones. So that was already intriguing to me, and the synopsis also sounds really interesting. It's about Tara, who is stuck on the 18th of November. Like, she's just living this day over and over and over again. And this book starts on her 121st 18th of November. So at this point she's just kind of given up on counting the days. She doesn't experience changes of months or seasons, and she doesn't know why this happened, and obviously she feels very lonely in this like one day she's stuck in. And I think this book is just about her coming to terms with that, exploring her feelings about it. Like, I'm not sure what exactly is going to happen, but I heard that it's sort of like a no plot, just vibes kind of book, so I'm assuming not a lot is going to happen, but I love those type of books. And this just sounds so different from most literary fiction I've ever read, so I'm very excited to get to this. The next book I'll just mention very briefly because it's not so interesting if you're not Dutch, but this is Krekel by Annet Schaap. This is a Dutch children's book, and I also bought the other one by this author called Lampje, but my sister has it right now because I already finished it in a few days. And these are just very popular books in the Netherlands, like even a lot of adults love them, so that is what made me intrigued and I decided to pick it up. And oh my god, I love the first one so much. It was like a sort of gothic fairy tale retelling of the aftermath of The Little Mermaid. It follows a young girl who grows up in the lighthouse with a depressed and alcoholic dad, and then she has to go and work for her money, and she's sent to this sort of gothic mansion in the woods. And there's supposed to be a monster in the attic there. And it kind of surprised me because it touched upon a lot of dark topics, and I don't really remember reading stuff like that as a kid, but it was just so beautifully done. It was such a hopeful and tender book, and I loved the fairy tale elements that were in there. So this is it's not really a series, but it's like a second book set in the same world. And I think this one is a retelling of the Seven Swans myth or fairy tale. Is it the Seven Swans? Anyway, it's about a girl who had 6 brothers and then 5 got lost at sea. That's what her stepmother says, but the girl doesn't believe it, and together with her last brother, who's just very like scaredy cat. She's gonna try and find her other 5 brothers. So that kind of sounds like Seven Swans retelling. But again, I love this world. It was so beautiful, so I'm really excited to read this too. And I'm just really enjoying reading like children's books in summer. It's just so wholesome or something. Next up, we have Confessions by Catherin, Airey. This was a cover by I love a good vintage photo on a book cover. I don't know what that is, but it also sounded very good. This follows Cora, who lost her mom at a young age, and then she also loses her father during the 9/11 attacks in New York. And after that, she's orphaned, she feels adrift, she's alone, and then she receives a mysterious letter with the offer of a new life. Far out on the ragged edge of Ireland, in the town where her parents were young, an estranged aunt can provide a home and fulfill a long-forgotten promise. There the story of Cora's family is hidden, and in her presence will begin to unspool. So this is a lot about family secrets, family history. It also sounds a little bit Gothic to me, like being shipped off to Ireland to this mysterious house with a mysterious aunt where you're starting a new life after you are orphaned. Like that is a classic Gothic plot. Maybe I'm completely wrong here, but that kind of made me excited for this book. And just anything set in Ireland, it's so bleak and mystical at the same time, which I really, really love. Then I have 2 folk horrors. I love to read folk horror in summer, like any type of horror. I cannot say that word. Horror. I don't want to say it anymore, but any type of horror where nature plays like a sort of main character role, like is sort of sentient and is a part of the story, that is perfect for summer for me. And this one I heard a lot about. I've seen it on TikTok a few times, so this had been on my list for a while. And this one I found while I was looking for more books like this, so that was easy. This is Starved Acre by Andrew Michael Hurley, and this is about 2 parents who lost their young son, Ewan, at the age of 5. And they both deal with their grief in very different ways. The mother is sort of convinced that the boy still lives on in different form and seeks the help of a group of occultists to get her son back. And the father becomes obsessed with Starved Acre, which is a plot of land across from their house. And it says, patiently he digs in the barren soil looking for the roots of a legendary oak tree, but unearths something which ought to have remained buried. So this is a horror book that touches upon the topic of grief, and that is usually my favorite theme within horror. Some other favorites are Our Wives Under the Sea and Mistrilio, so I think I'm really going to love this one. The other one is called Withered by David Barnett, and this one sounds like a fever dream. And if there's something I love in horror, it's like when everything feels like a fever dream. This one is split up in 2 stories, like the inside and the outside. The outside follows Sophie in her normal life in London, and suddenly she's getting strange messages warning her that someone's coming for her, and they're urging her to go to a place called Withered. And the other storyline is called The Inside, where Sophie is already in Withered, which is a isolated village in the woods, and it says she stumbled upon it naked, alone, and suffering from amnesia. Surrounded by a thick ring of woodland, its inhabitants are of another world, drenched in dark pagan traditions. Just put the word pagan on the back of a book and you got me. I'm so intrigued by pagan traditions and rituals and history, and it's just such a good basis for a good horror story, so I'm very excited for this one. Then I have a book which I already started, and it's called Perfection by Vincenzo Latronico. And this is a social commentary on the hollowness of millennial life. I think that's a good description. This book is making me so depressed, but like in a positive way. It's just done so well that you really start to feel like sort of hopeless about life. Like I was born in 1996, so I'm sort of like in between of Gen Z and millennials, and I can relate to both. But this commentary on the millennial life and the sort of broken dreams of this generation, it's hitting me so hard. Like I think millennials were the last generation that sort of was hopeful about life, and they thought they would have the same good life as their parents did. If they worked hard, they would just, climb up in society and be successful and have money and just live a comfortable life. And they were the generation that was completely crushed. Like during them growing up, everything was changing. Social media came, the housing market completely crashed, and they were like just a little bit too late with everything. And I think Gen Z is the generation that comes after that who saw what happened to the millennials, and they're just like, well, fuck this, I'm not gonna work. That's sort of the energy I feel. And I also feel completely caught in the middle of that. Like I am both very disappointed in life and also sort of like, I'm just gonna do whatever I want. But this book follows a millennial expat couple called Anna and Tom. They come from Portugal, I think, and then they moved to Berlin for work. And it just sort of describes their lives and gives some commentary on how they are feeling. But it's all so empty and numb. Like everything the author describes, you're like, why are we living like this, and why is this such a universal experience? Like, I have never had an original thought, apparently. And one of the things that I found super interesting, because I never thought about it that way, is why so many millennials have jobs in like web design, graphic design, copywriting, or web development. And it's basically because we grew up with the internet, so we were sort of like the first generation to explore that world on our own. And when we were young, it became our hobby to like build websites and make things in like Paint, you know. So we had a very early touch of what web design and graphic design was already like. And as we got older, it was suddenly a professional skill that was very desired in companies. So all the millennials were just like, well, I can already do this, so I guess I will just make my job out of it. And that's why so many millennials have this kind of job, which is just like, it's not revolutionary, but I just thought it was interesting to think about. Like, we kind of rolled into this type of jobs without even really thinking about if we wanted that. And the same goes for a lot of like interest. Like, a lot of millennials, as they get older, they are suddenly super interested in cooking or like Scandinavian design. And this book questions if that is truly what we are interested in, or if this is like spoon-fed to us by social media. Because through social media, we get so much information fed to us every day. We get so much knowledge that we never asked for. So if you get cooking videos over and over and over again, suddenly you are sitting with all this knowledge on cooking that you never looked up yourself, but now you just know all these things, that you sort of start gaslighting yourself into thinking it is your hobby. Because you know so much about it, it must be your hobby, right? And everything is just blowing my mind. This book just really gives very strong commentary on the lack of free will we really have, and the lack of purpose an entire generation is feeling. And you know, if you don't want to be depressed, don't read this, but I do think it's a very interesting and important read. Next up, we have The Blue Castle by Lucy Maud Montgomery. And this is a book I started this morning as part of the romance video. And this is the author of Anne of Green Gables, if I'm not mistaken, and I've never read that. But this is one of her less well-known books, but it's supposedly really good and really sweet and romantic. It follows Valency Sterling, a 29-year-old woman trapped by societal expectations and a domineering family. Like, she's still not married, so she's considered an old maid, and she sort of feels like hopeless about life. She's just daydreaming all day and wanting to escape. And then one day she receives life-altering news that compels her to break free from her oppressive life. She escapes to the enchanting Blue Castle, a lakeside cottage where she learns to embrace her authentic self, find love, and transform her life in ways she never thought possible. And I noticed that if I love a romance book, it's because there's also a really strong character growth for the female main character. Like, I don't like it when the romance is all there is. I really enjoy it when there's a female character that just sort of explores her authentic self and chooses for herself, and, you know, completely changes and breaks free from what she thought was normal. And I think this book is definitely going to do that, so I'm very excited. I also heard it's a perfect spring read, so this is the ideal time to pick this up. The next book I already read, and I was very disappointed by it, unfortunately. It's Hagstone by Sinéad Gleeson. And I have sort of like a dream book in my mind that I would love to read. And I've tried a few books that sort of sounded close to the premise that I have had in my head. And they both just so disappointed me. The first one was Spoiled Creatures, and now this one. So the dream book I have in my mind is that it's about a all-female commune. Like, this is a dream I have with my friends, right? We move to a place in the forest, become self-sustainable, live our best life, free from society. So that is sort of like the premise, the start of the book. There will be an all-female commune. But then slowly the ideal starts to crack. The commune sort of converts into a cult. I want it to be like a little bit magical, realistic, in the sense that there will be some pagan rituals and activities, and the tensions get higher and higher, and then eventually everything will come to a huge explosion. And it turns out even paradise is not perfect. Like, that is sort of the general idea I have in my head, and this book kind of gave me that premise. Like, I'll read you the back. For artist Nell, the island is her home and a source of inspiration for her art. The Indians, a reclusive community of women, consider it a place of refuge and solace in nature. All the islanders live there alongside strange murmurings that seem to emanate from the depths of the landscape, a sound that is almost supernatural, a summoning, as the Indians call it. One day, a letter from the Indians arrives at Nell's door. They invite her to produce an artwork celebrating their Samhain anniversary, and Nell cannot resist accepting. But as the fateful day approaches, Nell senses tensions building beneath the placid surface of the commune. Will she be able to unearth the truth behind the events unfolding around her? And how far will someone go to protect what they hold most dear? Like, this sounds exactly what I wanted, and the other book kind of sounded like that as well, Spoiled Creatures. But this just did not deliver at all. Like, everything you want to know more about and everything that it promises, it just sort of looks away from that in the plot. It just focuses on Nell and all the other artwork she wants to make. Like, it doesn't really talk about the art she's making for the commune. I have no idea what's going on there. It doesn't really talk about the why of the commune. It doesn't really zoom in on their lives there. The tensions are so fabricated. It was just not realistic at all. And then at the end, everything came just sort of like a big explosion where you were like, why did this happen? Like, there was nothing leading up to this. And it was just such a big disappointment. Like, it could have been so cool. It alludes to like paganism. There's this mysterious sound that comes every now and then on the island that comes from like the depths of the island and affects all the women living there. Like, one time it causes all the women to bleed all night, and another time it kills all the birds living on the island. They just sort of come falling down from the sky, and no one talks about that. Like, it's just, it happens, and after that the plot just sort of ignores it and goes on with its life. And it was just so strange. I guess this was a spontaneous book review, but I would not recommend this one, unfortunately. Then I have two books that I ran into in a secondhand bookshop, and I both got them for like €1. This is Stoner by John Williams, which is a classic by now, and I think this is sort of like a quiet, philosophical, dark academia novel about a man looking back on his life when he was a teacher at a university. That's basically all I know about it, but I know a lot of people love this. And the other one is The Miniaturist by Jessie, Burton. And this is a historical novel taking place in Amsterdam in the 1600s, which is so fun. I love learning more about the history of my own country. And the 1600s in Amsterdam, I think, was like the golden age. It was like a very big time for like art. It was a very rich place. Obviously, there's also a lot of dark history around that, but it definitely speaks to the imagination. And it follows the 18-year-old Nella, who arrives at a grand house in Amsterdam to begin her new life as the wife of wealthy merchant Johannes Brandt. Though curiously distant, he presents her with an extraordinary wedding gift, a cabinet-sized replica of their home. It is to be furnished by an elusive miniaturist whose tiny creations ring eerily true. As Nella uncovers the secrets of her new household, she realizes the escalating dangers they face. The miniaturist seems to hold their fate in her hands, but does she plan to save or destroy them? This, again, sounds a little bit like a gothic novel. Like, young girl arrives at a huge manor and something seems to be off in the house. But I do like the idea of there being like a miniature version of the house and sort of stuff playing out with that. I think that's very original and interesting. And I remember when this book came out, a lot of people loved it. Like, it was kind of hyped up back in the day, and after that it kind of disappeared. But you know, for €1 I could not leave this behind. Then the last one is a book I actually finished last night. It's called The Homemade God by Rachel Joyce. The cover is really cool, but I have to say I'm getting kind of over these classical paintings with fluorescent font on the cover. Like, I love the classical paintings on covers. I will never get over that. But the combination with the fluorescent font to make it look more modern, it's been overdone a little bit right now, so I'm not really loving that. But we're not here to talk about the cover. This is a perfect summer read. This follows 4 siblings who are the children of the famous artist Vic Kemp, and their lives all sort of revolve around their father. But then one day their father drops the bomb that he is remarrying to another artist called Balle, and she is 50 years his senior. So Balle is 27 and the father is in like his 70s. So obviously the kids are not really okay with that. They think Balle must be a gold digger, blah blah blah. So they are against this marriage. And Balle is sort of this mysterious figure. They don't meet her. It seems like she keeps avoiding them. And then one day they get a message from their father that he went to his villa in Italy with Balle and got married to her there. And this villa is placed on this tiny island in the middle of an Italian lake in the north of Italy. And this is like an important place from their childhood. So the siblings are very upset that their father went there without them and got married there without them. So they decide to sort of freeze him out and not reply to him. 6 weeks later, they get a call that their father has drowned in the lake. So obviously this is a very suspicious situation, and they all decide to go to this villa to recover their father's body, try to find the will if he left one, and to recover their father's mysterious last painting. He was saying he was working on his masterpiece in the weeks before his death, so they want to recover this painting as well. But when they come there, there's no will and no last painting, and Balle is very suspicious. She's not really opening up, she's not really saying much. And because there's no will, it means that both the siblings and the new wife have like 50-50 claim on everything, which also includes the Italian villa. So they decide to all stay in this villa together and wait out the autopsy of the father, because the oldest daughter is not having it. She's like, I'm gonna do more research on this. The police needs to get involved. Like, I don't trust this situation. at all. So they all stay in this villa together while they look for the whale, try to discover what happened to the last painting, and try to discover if something happened to the dad before he drowned. So this is a super tense situation. They're all stuck together on this little tiny island on the lake. It's a heat wave, like it's stifling hot, and slowly the relationships between the siblings are starting to crack. I think that is the best way to hype you up for this book. I really enjoyed it. At the start, I was not sure. The writing style didn't really grip me. I was not sure of the siblings' personalities, like they didn't really speak to me. But as the story progressed, you kind of figure out why some of the siblings are not fleshed out as well, and it's sort of becoming clear. And towards the end, I was really invested, and I just really enjoyed this. So if you want a mysterious summer read to read on the beach, I definitely recommend this one. So those were all the books I got recently. I hope you enjoyed hearing a little bit about them. If you read any of them, let me know what your thoughts were. And yeah, I hope to be back very soon with the video about the romance books that I liked, or another book related video. I'm also still vlogging this week, so definitely subscribe if you haven't before, and I hope to see you soon. Bye!